It's just about 11 o'clock, something like 11:10. Oh, I did go get those 10 cattle today. I did pick up 10 cattle. So I decided that what I would do was, okay, so I ended up buying 400-pound animals. They weighed 390 on the average. And I paid commodity prices for them. So I paid $1,377. I paid $1,377 and some odd change. It was I had some change in there too, per calf. And the whole reason that I did that was because I have a lot of grass out there right now. I have a lot of grass. I don't have to pay anything more. I honestly want some animals that are going to eat that grass, and I can just supplement them with a little bit of distiller grains. And the whole thing is when these animals, when you got a little 200 pound calf, the smaller the animal is, the more concerned you need to be about the animal's health and the animal's well-being. It doesn't take a whole lot to really mess up a 200-pound calf. And so, and in all honesty, you don't really even, unless you, and I'm not looking to float my own boat, okay? I'm not looking to brag. I'm not looking to whatever about that. I'm just telling you the truth. Unless you really understand what you're doing, you should probably not even put calves on grass, okay? Most of the time. Unless you actually really know what you're doing, like you understand what the feed values of your grass are, you're keeping a very good eye on your calf, because the last thing that you want to do is cause digestive upset in a little calf. Okay, their rumen's not very big to begin with. It doesn't really take much to really mess up a little 200-pound calf. You got a 200-pound calf that has acidosis. That's a very big problem. You have a calf that's 200 pounds and its rumen is completely filled with some forage that it can't digest at all. That's a very big problem. And so that's why I did bring home one calf that was 265 pounds, and I did bring home one calf that was 295 pounds. But the rest of them were 400 and over. The rest of them were 400 and over. So 8 of them were over 400 pounds, and the other two are a little bit smaller. But they had big old guts on them. So they're not just and they're they had big old guts on them, like they were eating solid food. So I gave them all grain. I left them out as much grain. I gave them free choice grain, and I left them out on the grass. And one of the calves bawled for about 2 hours, and I could tell that the calf had been bawling for a couple of days because its ball was actually starting to crack. When these calves, when they bawl for several days, their voice will actually crack, and the calf's voice was one of the calves' voice was just beginning to crack, but the other 9 of them, they're not bawling at all. They don't really seem to care. They kind of ran around the whole thing. They ran around the whole front yard about 3, 4, 5 times, and then they just started grazing. They just started eating, and then I don't even know where they are right now, but they're asleep somewhere, probably behind the barn. And I got that one sick animal, and it's not looking good. Okay, that one sick animal's not looking good. It's not looking good. In all honesty, I've been thinking about it, and I'm wondering if maybe when I put them all through the chute, when I ran them all through the chute, maybe I stressed them out too bad, and that stress was the precursor to the illness. And I'm like, that may have happened, and I'm like, I will take accountability for this. I take accountability for that. I will, when I run them through the chute, because it's like, it's just me in that chute by myself, and I'm looking to give every single one of these calves multiple injections, and it takes hours, and it's a stressful thing for me. And and I'm sitting there, like trying to push the calves apart and run them through the chute, and and sometimes I just kind of want to get through it, and but I believe that stress may have played a factor in him developing the illness, and I take accountability for that. So I said, starting right now, starting right now, I am going to do the best that I can to reduce the stress load on the animals. So and I which I don't intentionally stress my animals outright, but I said I'm going to put more effort. That's one thing that I can do to improve what I'm doing is to really think about reducing the stress load, right? Or maybe instead of running all 20 calves to the chute on one day, if it turns, if it's like a situation where it's like just too stressful for me, and and I feel like, oh well, and whatever it may be, maybe I just catch 10 of them, run 5 at a time through the chute 2 times, and then I can do the other half the next day, right? Think about it like that, and then I won't be so stressed, right? It's like I just whatever, right? I just I gotta it's gonna take me an hour to catch the calves. It's gonna take me half an hour to catch the calves, and then it's gonna take me probably 5 minutes, 10 minutes a calf to get every calf caught and get them all separated and get them all sorted and give them all their shots. And if that turns out to be too whatever, then I can just split it up, right? I can just split it up into 2 separate days, and do it on 2 separate days, and that would also reduce the amount of stress that my calves are experiencing too. I mean, and I think that this calf, he may have stress may have played a factor in him developing this illness. And that's actually one thing that today, I followed the new animals around for a couple of hours. I followed them around for about 2 hours, 3 hours, to see if I was gonna have any very high risk animals. When they first got here, I took a good hard look at them, and I didn't see any animal with any sort of illness or anything. All of the calves that I bought seem to be doing pretty good. They seem to be healthy. They're all eating. They're not bawling. And so I decided that I'm just going to let them out on the grass, and I will keep a very close eye on these animals. I will keep a very close eye on them. And if any of them even appear to be sick, or anything even looks, even just a slight bit off, I will catch that animal and I will give that animal a shot of antibiotics. But I decided to do that instead of just catching all the animals the moment they get here and giving them a shot of antibiotics, metaphylaxis. I've actually decided to just let them run out on the grass, because here's also one thing about the grass is that I even said earlier in this video, I'm not suggesting that you put your animals on grass. Okay, I'm not suggesting that you put your calves on grass. I'm not suggesting that you put your lightweight calves on grass. Okay. If you don't know what you're doing with the grass, I mean, you could end up causing a lot of digestive upset in the animal, whether it be through indigestion or through acidosis. Okay, so you have to be very cautious of that. When you have a small animal, the smaller the animal is, the more risk it has of developing indigestion, whether it be acidosis or it just cannot digest the food at all. So, the smaller the animal is, the smaller the rumen is. So you have to be very careful about that too. And I took a look at them though, and I took a good hard look at them, and I don't think that I bought any sick animals. I don't think I did. All of the animals look pretty good, and I had one that bawled for about an hour and a half, but the rest of them didn't bawl, and they got to eating pretty fast. I brought them home. I brought them home at 7:45, and I followed them around until about 10 o'clock. And I would say that about when it started getting dark at about 8:30, they started eating. So they ran around for about 30 minutes. They ran around for about 45 minutes. And then they started grazing. They started grazing after that. They kind of ran around all over the place for a little bit, and then they started grazing. So you know, and I did give them all grain. If they want grain, I put grain out by their water bin, so they can eat that if they want. And today I actually realized that I actually raised my income by about 20%, because yesterday I was actually talking about debt, right? How I utilize debt and why am I utilizing debt, right? I was talking about this yesterday. What was I looking at, and why did I choose to utilize debt, and how much debt did I utilize? Because the whole thing about my cattle business is that when I talk about my cattle herd, I talk about it in terms of two separate herds, right? I have a stabilized herd and I have a unstable herd, right? The stabilized herd is effectively a group of animals that I have logically anticipated will produce me a positive return for the next, reasonable foreseeable future, right? 3, 4, 5 months, something like that. They will produce me a positive return for the next several months. And the unstable herd is effectively the animals that I am, bringing in that are high risk. And I was actually going to say this, but I completely forgot a little while ago. But when you put animals on grass, I've actually found that when cattle get put on grass, and I'm not suggesting that you put your calves on grass. Okay, don't I'm not suggesting you put your lightweight calves on grass. But when you do have calves on grass, granted that you grow the grass properly and the grass is being fed to the animal properly. When the animals walk around and chew grass, it actually calms them. You can actually see like this like a like a stress relief. I call it Zen, right? Well, I don't call it Zen, but it's almost like Zen. It's like they become very peaceful whenever the cattle are walking around chewing on grass. It's like that there's a chemical reaction in their brain that causes them to calm down. And so that's why I was like, I'm just going to let the animals out on the grass, because if I let them out on the grass and they walk around and they chew that grass, it will actually calm them down. I've actually seen this happen a lot, and that was one of the things that I did to help reduce the stress load on the animal. Instead of bringing them home and running them through the chute immediately and putting them on grain, I have all of this grass, and the grass is good feed value, right? The grass is good. The animals can eat the grass and they'll put weight on the grass. The grass is being grown very well, and so they can walk around and they can eat the grass. And when the animals walk around and eat the grass, and the grass is also grown properly, the animals will not bloat on it, and it will actually relieve stress. You can actually see the animal, you can actually see the animal become more peaceful. I don't know how else to put it, but you can actually see it happen when your calves are, when cattle are walking around and chewing grass. They become very like docile. All right, they become very calm. And so that's why I was like today, instead of dropping them off in the chute and immediately running them through the pen, or instead of immediately running them through the chute and giving them all a shot of antibiotics and then putting them right on total mixed ration feed, what I will do is I will just let them out on the grass. I will keep a good. Well, I took a look at them all when they were in the trailer. I took a look at them in the trailer. I didn't see any sort of I didn't have any wonky animals. And so I said, okay, I will let them out on the grass. And when I let them out on the grass, I didn't get too close to them or anything. And I let them run around. And I just let them run around for about 30 minutes. And then they started grazing. And then I kept a very good eye on them to make sure that they were all eating. And they are all eating. They're all grazing. And when they graze, when they walk around and chew that grass, it actually calms them. And so that's why I decided to do that. And tomorrow morning I will get up early and I will make sure that I really go and keep a good eye on the animals. I will keep a very good eye on the animals. The animals all need a round of vaccinations, and I will have to get them all the round of vaccinations. And the animals in the back need their booster as well. The animals in the back need their boosters, and so. The new calves need their boosters. I have 6 calves in the back that need boosters, and so tomorrow morning I'll get up early and I'll make sure that the new calves are doing good. I'll make sure that I don't have any. If they even look sick, if they even look like anything could potentially be wrong with them, I will give them a shot of antibiotics. But I actually chose to not give antibiotics, and instead what I did was I took an approach where I put the animals out on the grass and I let them graze the grass. And when they started grazing the grass, it actually calmed them. I made sure that I took a good hard look at the animals when they were in the trailer to make sure that I didn't have any animals that were huffing and puffing. No animals were coughing. No animals were, producing discharge out of their face. Nothing like that. All the animals looked good. And so, I said, okay, the animals look okay, right? And it might just be better on them. It might be better for them in terms of relieving, the stress of being at the sale barn if I just let them out on the field. And so I just went ahead and let them out on the field. And so far, so good. I don't want to give myself bad juju. But I watched them graze, and they grazed a lot of grass, and they're eating a lot. They ate a lot, and I gave them grain out there too. And so, yep. When you have when cattle are walking around and chewing on grass, it actually calms them down. It actually makes them very docile while they're chewing that grass. It like relieves stress in their brain. And so, but today I actually raised my income by about 20% today. I have 44 animals, but I do anticipate that one of the animals will die. So that will leave me with 43 animals. That'll leave me with that, but I don't know. I got 44 animals right now, but I do think that one of them will die. And so, I raised my income by about 20% today because, okay, what's probably going to happen with these animals is that the average weight of these animals are 390. The average weight of the animals are 390, and here in about 2.5 months, the animals will probably, in 2.5 months, the animals will probably weigh about 600, and I'll have to figure out when exactly am I going to liquidate them. But I figured that it will take me about maybe 3 or 4 months to raise a 400 pound animal up to whatever if I have them for 3 months, because right now I have 2 months and 3 weeks before I am looking to sell my second lot of animals, right? I got 3 weeks before I sell my first lot of animals. I'm looking to sell my first lot in 3 weeks, and I'm looking to sell my second lot in 2 months and 3 weeks. And so, I may end up sending all of the animals together. I may do that. I may even just send them. Maybe I hold on to them for a couple more weeks. I'll have to see. I'll have to see exactly what I'm gonna do. But these animals, they're probably not gonna be here for very long. They'll probably be here for about 3 months. And I'll probably raise these animals for 3 months and then liquidate them. And I would think that okay, so I paid 13.77 and change for each animal, and when I sell these animals, I'll probably get about $1,800 per animal. And I was at $1,900 per animal. I'll probably sell them at about 650, 700, 650, 700. And I was actually talking about this in the past, but and I talked about this at the very beginning of the video. The whole idea of having the reason why I would bring home a 400 pound animal, and I actually took my own advice here, so you can actually tell that I'm not just making this up. Okay, I'm not just giving you the wrong information. I actually decided to buy 400 pound animals at commodity prices because it would reduce my workload significantly. All right, I have a bunch of grass out here. That's one of the big reasons why is because I have a bunch of grass out here, and if I don't harvest the grass, if the cattle don't walk around and eat that grass, then I lose money because, well, I mean, I lose out on potential profit, right? I mean, it's kind of a waste, right? I grew all this grass, and to not harvest, 80% of it is kind of a waste. So, I have all of this grass. It doesn't matter if I have 30 animals. It doesn't matter if I have 20 animals, right? The animals are not going to eat all this grass. I have a massive amount of grass, okay? There is a large amount of grass on the field right now. I would say that the grass is probably like 2 feet tall right now. The grass is probably like 2 feet tall. And, I have a lot of grass out there. So, it would be a waste. And I don't have to, the thing is that I don't have to pay anything to feed the animals. That's why I brought them in at 400 pounds, okay? I brought them in at 400 because they can actually digest the grass. All right, the smaller animals, this grass, the animals could probably digest it, but in a couple of weeks that might change, right? That might change in a couple of weeks, and so I didn't want to bring in a bunch of 200 pound animals, right? And so and also a 400 pound animal will eat about twice as much as a 200 pound animal, right? So that helps a lot too because I have a lot of grass on the field. The more that they eat, the better off I will be. All right, I need them to eat as much as they can. And so that's also why I brought them in heavier, was so that they eat more food. And if they eat more food, I may even legitimately be able to put on like 3 pounds a day, maybe even more than 3 pounds a day on a 400 pound animal. I might be able to. I have a Charolais steer in the back that I brought him in at like 330 pounds. 2.5 months ago, 2 months and 1 week ago. I brought him in at 330 pounds, and he's already like 550, maybe even more, like 575. I mean, he might be putting on like 100 pounds a month. And so, with all this grass, I spoke about this. It's like living at an all-you-can-eat buffet, and I supplement them with grain too. I supplement the animals with about 1% of their body weight a day in grain. I give them a total mixed ration with a distiller grains, ration mixture that I give them. I give them a total mixed ration and a distiller grains, the supplement to their grass. And my animals are putting on like 100 pounds a month. All right, they're putting on a lot of weight, and so these 400-pound animals, they may legitimately be 700 pounds in 3 months. All right, and when they hit 700 pounds, I probably get a $1,900 an animal. An 800-pound animal right now is selling for like $2,100. All right, 2,150 bucks, $2,200 almost. So I mean, I probably get like $1,900 for a 700-pound animal. And so, it won't take me very long. Let's say I lowball it and I say $1,800 an animal, and at $1,800 an animal, and I've already said that the grass, I'm not paying any more for the grass, right? I mean, it's practically free. Whether I feed it to, whether the animals eat it or not, I still grow it. All right, because I mean, like, what am I gonna do? Save $50 in fertilizer to not grow the grass? That's ridiculous, right? I've already spoken about this. When it comes to growing grass, the big idea is that it's not worth saving money on grass. Okay, I might as well just grow it, because it's like oh my god, well, if I reduce my fertilizer usage, right? If I reduce how much fertilizer, because, and here's the thing, like me, when I utilize fertilizer, I don't just throw fertilizer on my field, right? Like, I go out there, I take a look at how much biomass is being accumulated. I take a look at, the total biomass accumulation of the plant. I take a look at, the soil, the moisture level in the field. I take a look at, how much moisture do I believe that I will get, right? I take a look at all these factors, how much minerals, how much minerals do I believe that my plants have metabolized, right? I take a look at all these things, and then I formulate a plan. I formulate an idea for how much fertilizer I will use, right? So I have a very reasonable amount of fertilizer that I use, right? I mean, I don't just go and just throw hundreds of pounds of fertilizer in every direction and then I don't do that, right? I mean, I take a look at it. How much biomass do I have? What are the weather conditions? How much biomass do I believe my plants will accumulate? How much minerals do I believe my plant will metabolize? I take a look at all of these various factors, right? I take a look at all these various factors, and then I sit there and I think about it, and then I come up with a reasonable idea for how much fertilizer I will use. I will put 35 pounds of nitrogen per acre on this field at a 5:1:3 ratio, and I will utilize a micronutrient mineral pack, because I anticipate that I will get 3 to 4 inches of rain this week, over a course of 3 to 4 days. I will effectively have one inch of rain one day, 2 inches of rain the next day, and then another inch of rain the next day. That's, the Weather Channel was saying that I was going to have 3 to 4 inches of rain, and that the rain was going to come down over a course of like 3 or 4 days, right? And so that's what I did. That's how much fertilizer I used. And so, I don't just, when I take a look at that, situation, I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, well, if I reduce my fertilizer usage by 33%, then I can save money. Why would I do that? Right? I mean, the fertilizer, it costs what, like $275, right? It costs like what, $325, right? I mean, it cost me like $325 to fertilize 10 acres. Why would I sit there and think about saving $100? I don't care about the $100, right? I'm not going to sit there and save $100 and not fertilize my front yard, right? I mean, why would I do that? I'm already at the fertilizer yard. I might as well just pick up the fertilizer. I'm already there, right? I mean, why would I not pick it up? And so, I'm not going to I'm not going to sit there and go, well, if I reduce my fertilizer usage, I can save $100, right? And then I don't have to fertilize my front yard. I'm just gonna fertilize my front yard. Okay, I'm gonna front. I will fertilize my front yard, and right now I have so much grass on the front yard that it's like 2 feet tall. All right, these animals are not gonna even get close to eating all of it. I have a massive amount of biomass. There is a massive amount of grass on my field, and in all honesty, these animals will probably put on like three over, maybe even potentially over 3 pounds a day, because I also supplement these animals with grain. I give them a total mixed ration grain that I mix with distiller grains. And when I give them that grain mixture, I also make sure to keep track of their digestion, right? I make sure that they're not having they're not having acidosis, they're not bloating, their manures aren't clumping up too bad. I check the animals to make sure that they're actually conditioning, et cetera, right? They're conditioning properly, et cetera, et cetera. So, I keep a very good eye on my animals. I keep very good tabs on my animals. And I'm not looking to float my own boat and whatever, but I've, even in this whole situation, my farm, when you actually take a look at my farm, the living conditions for animals is drastically higher than what you would see in a normal commercial cattle farm. Okay, it honestly is. And I'm not saying that I'm an altruistic person. I'm not saying, I'm not looking for whatever, right? I'm not looking for validation. I'm definitely not looking for validation. I'm just saying, let's just take a look at it for what it is. The living standards and the health standards on my farm are significantly higher than what you would see on most commercial farms. Okay, my animals that have effectively are walking around on grass 24/7. They're not there's not hundreds of them jam packed in a pen, right? I mean, I'm not a whatever, right? And my live the living conditions for cattle on my farm are significantly better than what you would see on most commercial farms. Okay, and that's one thing that I've always said, that the whole thing about this whole situation is that if we should work to do better. Okay, we should work to do better. Sitting there and just pointing fingers at everything, and oh my God, can't believe it. Raising cattle in confinement and antibiotics and feeding grain and you know be a part of the solution, right? I mean, be a part of the solution. All right, don't be a part of the problem. I mean, find something and be productive and be useful, right? I mean, it's be a part of the solution, right? I mean, there are a lot of things that I don't that I whatever, right? I would like to see humanity do better. Do I think that humanity is at like the pinnacle of all achievement today, right now? No, I don't think that, right? I mean, I would like to see humanity do better, and that's also one of my big reasons for doing this. Because at the end of the day, I'm not giving you the wrong information, right? I'm giving you the best information that I can. And when you actually take a look at what I'm doing, I do very well for myself. I do very well for myself. I do very well. All right, I do very well. It's almost unheard of to have a first generation farmer go and start a commercial cattle farm, and just and even make any money at all. All right, most people can't make any money in the cattle business, and I've already even spoken about this, and like when I'm like on the internet and and I read all these things, and I watch, I see all these things pop up everywhere, and it's like, oh my God, our generation, millennials and Gen Z, and the boomers have it the best out of everybody, and it's all this stuff. And it's like, I don't know what universe you live in, but I know a lot of people, and I talk about this all the time. I legitimately know a lot of people who are like, it doesn't matter how old they are. I mean, you could be 15 and you could be completely screwed. I mean, and I know, and that's not funny, right? And I'm telling you, I'm not saying it like it's a joke. I'm telling you, you could be 15 years old and you could be completely screwed. I mean, you're effectively not gonna, I don't know how else to tell you this. But I mean, there's a very real possibility that like if you don't get it together, I mean, then you're effectively just gonna end up as kind of a worthless bum, borderline. And I know a lot of people that are even 50, 60, 70 years old that have nothing. A majority of people 70 years old. I would say that a majority of people at 70 years old have closer to nothing than whatever else. I mean, $1 million or even $500,000. I don't know where all this nonsense is coming from when it comes to like the boomers have it the best out of everybody, and it's like I don't know what you're talking about, because a majority of people that I know that are like 70 years old, they're not doing phenomenally well. Like I don't know what you're looking at. I mean, who are you looking at that has it's like do you legitimately think that like half of the people who are 60 years old have $1 million? Like, is that what you think? I mean, I don't know what you're like what I mean what where are what are you complaining about? Right? I mean, and but and I know this is a harsh reality, but I mean, but it is what it is, because I've always said that at the end of the day, sharing the pie, splitting the pie evenly is a communist ideal, and splitting the pie evenly is like this altruistic, moronic thing. It will never happen. There is no splitting the pie evenly, okay? Some people don't get any pie because they're an idiot. You legitimately, there are a lot of people who end up with nothing because they're an idiot, and you cannot save that person. And I know that that might be sad, and it is sad, right? Because there's no reason for that to happen, right? I mean, if you're born with average IQ, you can effectively learn how to do just about anything. All right, you don't want to learn how to become an idiot. All right, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, it's like, oh my God, if because here's the thing. It's like me, I'm 33, and I just increased my income by 20% over the last 24 hours. All right, and I would actually anticipate that I double my income over the next 3 or 4 months. All right, my income is like I don't even know what my income is. I mean, you know what, you want to know what I was, that I was actually thinking maybe, I challenge myself to spend $5,000 on myself. But then I was actually thinking about this earlier today, because I was like, I legitimately did not buy anything with my money. And I said I was going to put $500 in my wallet, and then I was going to go and spend it. I did not spend a single dollar after since the last time that I spoke about this. I did not spend a single dollar. And I was like, what the heck? I should be buying something, right? I did buy a sling for my M1. It was 25 bucks. I did buy that, but that was the only thing that I bought. Oh yeah, and I bought a lock for my gun case. That was $5. So I spent like $32.50 after tax on this stuff, and that was the only I legitimately have not spent any money after that. And so I was like, okay, well, that maybe I should but I also don't want to go out of my way to spend money, because I feel like that's a waste of time. Why would I do that? I mean, it's not like I was miserable, right? I wasn't like miserable over the last whatever week or whatever it may have 2 weeks. I wasn't like miserable, right? I mean, it's not like, oh my God, if I just could spend a couple $100, then I would be more happy. It's not like that, right? I mean, if I legitimately felt like buying something, I could just buy it. But I'm telling you, I did not buy anything. I bought a lock for my gun case. It was $5, and I bought a sling for my M1, and it was $25. I paid like $32.50 after tax, and that was legitimately all of the money that I spent. I did not spend a single dollar more. Oh, I think actually, you know what? I actually think I spent like $65 on food over, and I think it's been like what, like 10 days or something. I don't even know. It's been like a week, 2 weeks. So and I spent like I think it was like $67 or something, $65, and so I spent like $100 in like I don't even know. I spent like $100 in like 2 weeks, 10 days, a week, something like that. So I mean, even spending $500 is kind of ridiculous. But I was actually thinking about it. I was like, if I was gonna go out, like let's just say I just challenged myself to spend $5,000. I said, no matter what, I gotta go and buy $5,000 worth of stuff. I gotta go and do that. What would I buy? And the one thing that I came up with was I would buy a suit, but a suit would not cost me 5 grand, right? I would buy a suit and then I couldn't think of anything else. Well, so maybe I should buy a suit. Maybe I should buy a suit. I've been thinking about maybe I should buy a suit. So, but that maybe I'll go and buy myself a suit. But I've actually increased my income by about 20% over the last 24 hours. I have 43 animals now, 44 if I include when I include the sick one. And here in about 3 weeks, I will be liquidating 18 calves. And when I liquidate those 18 calves, I will probably make enough money to buy like 30, and I'll still have enough money to buy like 2 loads of grain and a load of fertilizer, and I'll still probably have like 2 grand left over. And after I do that, within probably about another 2.5 months, I may even be selling like 25 calves at the same time. I may sell all of the other calves at the same time. The other 25. I have and that would be 18 plus 25 would be 43. And if I sell 43 calves and they have an average weight of if I sell 43 calves, let's say I have 41. Let's just say 41 to just reasonably, maybe something happens between now and then. Let's say I have 41 calves that I sell at or let's whatever 43 that I sell at an average weight of 650 pounds, and I stick to the business plan. Maybe I even sell them at 700. I would probably have enough money to buy 75 calves. I'll probably have enough money to buy 75. I could buy 3 loads of grain. I could buy 2 loads of fertilizer, and I would still probably have a couple $1,000s left over. All right. So it'd be like 43, 86 minus maybe about 12 just to lowball it. So let's say like 75. And if I buy 3 loads of grain, that's like 7 grand. I could probably buy like 73 calves, 3 loads of grain, a load of fertilizer, and then I would get paid again in 2 months, right? I'd get paid again in 2 months, and then shortly after that, when I have 73 calves, I would effectively getting paid every single month instead of every 2 months, instead of every 2.5 months. I would effectively double my income at that point, and I would be getting paid every month. So I've already decided to make more money. All right, I've spoken about this. I'm not some malicious person. I'm not some horrible person. I have decided to make more money. Okay, I have decided to make more money. That is the direction that I'm going with my life. I've already made my peace with God about it. There's I'm gonna that's the direction that I'm going to make more money. I will probably end up buying more land. And between now and then, whatever it is, if I feel like buying something, I should just buy it. I always have to remind myself that, because it's like if I can buy, I should just buy it, okay? Because it's not gonna matter. Even if I spent $5,000 a month, it wouldn't matter. Financially, it would not matter. My income would still go up, right? Farming does not cost me anything; it makes me money. I'm effectively doubling the amount of farming that I am doing over the next 3 months, and I will probably double it again by the end of the year. All right, I probably will. I do very well for myself, and there's no reason for me to, sit there and contemplate, should I buy this thing, should I not buy this thing? If it's like $500, right? I should just buy it. I make plenty of money. I do very well for myself. And if that's it for me today, YouTube. You have a good one.